Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a brand new video. So you've all read the title, you've seen the thumbnail. I'm pregnant. As I am filming this, I'm actually very early on. I am in my 5th week. I'm not sure on an exact date yet, as I'm yet to have my dating scan. I'm also really not sure at this point when this video is gonna go up. Naturally, it's gonna be quite a while before Josh and I will be sharing the news publicly. As of now, we have a very small circle of people that are aware, and to be honest, there is more people that know about the baby than we originally would have liked. However, the kind of start of my pregnancy has not been the nicest. As a matter of fact, it's been a little bit of a nightmare, and it's been very scary. You might remember a while back, over Christmas time actually, I posted a video and I kind of cut it off pretty abruptly and said that we were going through a few things. And I'm at a point now where I can share with you what I was actually going through. Now, I do want to throw out a little bit of a trigger warning here. I'm going to be talking about a few sensitive topics. So if you are sensitive surrounding topics regarding pregnancy and threat and loss of pregnancy, then maybe fast forward or skip out. But I just want to kind of share what I went through at the beginning of this pregnancy and why it wasn't all excitement straight from the get-go. So I found out I was pregnant on Boxing Day, and when I say I was just pregnant, like, I must have been just pregnant. And I had already been spotting the days prior, and my cycles were all a little bit off, and this cycle in particular was really off. It was way longer than what I'd been experiencing before, and when I started spotting, I assumed I was getting my period, because that is usually what happened when I got my period. I would spot for a few days and then I would get my period, but after a few days it wasn't kind of getting any heavier. And it kind of prompted me to then take a test, so I did, and I saw the tiniest faint little line. So much so that Josh couldn't really see it at that point, but I just knew. Aside from the spotting, I was exhausted. Those were the two kind of giveaways for me. I was really exhausted. I was falling to sleep at 10:30 at night, where usually I would be up until about 1 in the morning reading a book. So it was positive, and I continued to take tests after that, and the line just continued to get darker. And I think it was a couple of days after Boxing Day that I actually got a positive on a digital. It was one of those kind of 6 days sooner clear blue ones. So for us it was confirmed I was definitely pregnant. The spotting still continued though, and then alongside that I was getting a little bit of discomfort, mostly in my lower abdomen, but in the right side, and that was concerning me a little bit. Now, I did have some spotting with Avery when I was pregnant with Avery, so at first I wasn't overly concerned. Like, it was all old blood and it was only a little bit here and there, but then one night I had a bit of a fresh bleed. Sorry if this is TMI, by the way. This is another reason why I kind of threw that trigger warning out there, but you know, with the nature of the video, we're talking girly things here. So yeah, I had a red bleed and then I was still having this pain. The red bleed literally was just once and it didn't keep happening, but after that I thought it would be wise to book an appointment with my GP. So I did that, and at first they said that the early pregnancy unit at the hospital didn't see people until they were 6 weeks along. Now, on paper I think I was about 7 weeks along, but I knew I was closer to the 4-week mark. Because I track my cycle and I know my body. The same thing has happened with every single one of my pregnancies. I've not been as far along as I would be on paper. That is just the way my cycles are. And I've kind of learned to be aware of my body in that respect, I suppose. So the doctor did kind of like a urine test, and he said there was a possibility of a UTI. Nothing really came out of that. He said my tummy was nice and soft, which was a good sign. But he called the early pregnancy unit and asked them to see me anyway, even though I thought I was earlier along, just because it was a bit fishy that I was experiencing this discomfort and having the spotting. So I went into the early pregnancy unit 2 days later, because this was over New Year's, so I think it was the day after New Year's Day. And I had some bloods taken, and then I had a scan. Now, this whole process I experienced with Avery as well because of the spotting, and I was kind of expecting it to be the same. I went in there thinking it was going to be fine. Just the same thing was happening as Avery, and it would all be fine. During the scan, I knew they wouldn't see anything. I knew that I was too early. And they didn't see anything in my uterus, but what I wasn't expecting was for them to tell me that there was a mass adjacent to my ovary, and also I had some free fluid in my pelvis. And they said that those things pointed to an ectopic pregnancy. So after that, they sent me to a quiet room. They brought Josh into me, and then the nurses just kept coming in then and talking to me about my options regarding an ectopic pregnancy. They gave me leaflets to read through. They kept saying they were sorry, and at this point I couldn't get my head around the fact that they were immediately pointing to this when it was still too early to tell if there was something in the right place or not. And that's what I kept saying all along. I will say now that it did really bother me that they spoke as though it was the worst case scenario, and I kept telling them I'm too early to see anything. I feel like we should wait before we jump to conclusions until, you know, the time has passed where you should be able to see something, a gestational sac or something like that. But they decided to continue to take blood tests. So every 48 hours I had to have a blood test to see what my hormone levels were doing, my HCG, and they said that if it wasn't doubling, then that also pointed towards an ectopic pregnancy. But then in the same scenario, sometimes, it's not common, but sometimes it can continue to rise like normal, which is bad, because then that means that the pregnancy is growing like normal too, and if it's in the wrong place, then that's not a good thing. So my HCG was doubling. I had one the day I went for the first scan and it was 300. 2 days later it was 740, and then 2 days after that I think it was 1700. So my hormones were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I went back in for another appointment and spoke to a doctor. Again, she was kind of very negative and just didn't seem to want to entertain the fact that I might actually be right. I'm just too early, and I feel like I know my body more than they do. Obviously they're doctors, and I understand that they will give you worst case scenario because they don't want to give you false hope. But I kind of feel like the bedside manner could have been a little bit better, because I ended up crying my eyes out in that appointment and just asked Josh to take me home, because the doctor basically said I had 3 options. Option A was to wait and see what happened, which is quite a common management plan if you're not really experiencing some like any horrible symptoms, which I wasn't. The spotting had pretty much tapered off at that point. I wasn't really in much pain. So that was my first option, and that meant kind of continuing to go in for bloods. The second option was to be admitted into hospital for observation, just in case anything were to go wrong. Obviously the risk with an ectopic pregnancy is that the fallopian tube ruptures. That is what they were concerned about. And then my third option was to take an injection. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but essentially it was an injection to kind of expel everything out of my body. Now, I said at the time, like, why are you advocating that when you don't even know if there is a pregnancy in the right place yet? It baffled me. It blew my mind that they were advocating that at that point in pregnancy. So I mean, that option was always a definite no from the get-go. And then I think I did have one other option. It was to have the surgery, but again, I trusted my body at that point. So I decided to go home and just wait. And the same day, it was the day I had my third HCG results back, they called me and said because they doubled again, they wanted me to go back in for another ultrasound the next day. So I did that, I went in, and at this point I believed to be about 5 weeks along, and went for the scan, and they found a pregnancy in the place it should have been. It was still very early. The sonographer said that she thought I was right about my dates because she saw a gestational sac and a yolk sac, which kind of corresponds with around 5 weeks pregnant. She also said during the scan she was able to get a better look at my ovary. What I will say, it was a different sonographer to the first one. She said it didn't look like a pregnancy at all. She said it could have just been not as easy to visualise in the last ultrasound. She said it looked more like an endometrioma or potentially a cyst, but she said it looked more like an endometrioma, and they asked me if I had ever been diagnosed with endometriosis, which I haven't, but then I also haven't gone for any tests or anything like that. So it's quite small, the cyst, and apparently it is on my ovary, not in my tube. So yeah, essentially from that point, and this was only a couple of days ago now, I can relax. I could relax a little bit. Obviously I'm still very much on high alert. I think after that scare it's kind of given me the jitters a little bit, especially with the spotting, and I'm a little bit nervous. Josh is home with me at the moment, and that has been a godsend, because while we were waiting to find out if it was ectopic or not, I was pretty much on a ban of doing anything. Like, Josh told me I wasn't allowed to do anything strenuous, I wasn't allowed to pick up the washing basket, I wasn't allowed to pick up Avery, and it was torture. It was a few days, but it was torture because I am the least dependent person ever. I hate being dependent on anyone else, so it was really hard, but you know, in hindsight it was a small price to pay, and everything is fine now. So I am slowly trying to kind of get my body back into kind of moving about and doing things again. I don't want to be a slob. I like to have active pregnancies. I feel good in terms of my symptoms. I am pretty lucky. I didn't have any sickness with any of my babies, so I'm really hoping that this one will be the same. Obviously I'm only 5 weeks along right now, so time can change things, but I'm hoping I won't experience any sickness like that. I am tired, I'm more tired, but I'm not as tired as I was last week. My boobs are killing me. That's probably one of the biggest telltales right now. But aside from that, I feel really, really good. I'm breathless though. I am very, very breathless. I have noticed that, and thirsty. But yeah, I'm doing good, and yeah, that's kind of as far as we've gotten right now. Obviously we have a lot of things to figure out, a lot of things to work around, and a lot of things to I don't know, think about, I guess. But we're trying to take it kind of a little bit at a time right now, so as not to overwhelm ourselves. Obviously none of the kids know yet. It is just a really, really small, close circle of our family that know. My mum actually travelled down to Wales while I was going through all of the scans and the blood tests and everything, just to kind of lend a hand, which was really nice and really helpful. And it was actually really nice to see my mum again so soon after last seeing her. But yeah, so we're taking things as they go. I'm not too sure how much you're going to see in this video. I am hoping to have had some things filmed. So for the rest of this video, I guess I will be sharing from now up until, I don't know, I'll pick a date, maybe the end of the first trimester, maybe. Again, I'm still not sure when I'm going to go public with this, so yeah, hopefully from now in this video I'll just be sharing what you guys have missed, and I will definitely do a Q&A, because I know that there will be a lot of questions, although I've had questions before on whether or not Josh and I would have any more children, so I feel as though some of you won't be very surprised. My dad wasn't. My dad said he saw it coming. But I will be doing a Q&A, so please leave all of your questions down below. The only thing I do ask is please try and keep it positive. No kind of inappropriate, nasty questions, because I will not answer them. I have had a few sort of inappropriate questions in the past, so I won't answer those ones. But if you have any questions regarding pregnancy or anything that we've kind of figured out in regards to managing pregnancy whilst having a child with complex medical needs, how we're going to juggle all of the kids, yeah, just leave them down below, and I will get to doing a Q&A ASAP. But for now, enjoy the first few weeks of my pregnancy. It is Tuesday the 21st of January. Josh and I just got back from our last appointment at the early pregnancy unit. I had another ultrasound and everything's okay. They found the little tiny baby and a little tiny heartbeat. So I'm measuring at around 7 weeks right now, which is exactly where I thought I would be. My dates as per kind of my cycle tracking are spot on. So now I just need to wait to hear from the midwives about kind of next steps and booking a dating scan and whatnot. So yeah, safe to say, very, 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 very relieved. It's been a stressful few weeks. Hopefully we can relax a little bit now and enjoy it a little bit more. They also said that the cyst that they thought was an endometrioma, they couldn't see that today, so that was a good sign. But I have heard that people with endometriomas, they can often shrink or even disappear during pregnancy, so I'm hoping that's kind of the case with me. So yeah, everything's good, and yeah, I can relax a little bit now. Excuse the state of me right now, guys. We are staying at the children's hospice at the moment, and I'm having a really lovely time. It's Saturday night. Avery is downstairs in bed with the nurses. The boys are in bed. Josh has gone downstairs to get more snacks, but this is the issue I've been dealing with pretty much every single evening for the last few weeks. I'm currently about 10 weeks, give or take a day or two. This is obviously not baby. This is bloat. It's painful, it's hard, and it's not funny. It's making me look like I'm about halfway through already. Now, don't get me wrong, I've put on weight. I know I've put on weight. I am about a stone past my normal weight, but that's not all pregnancy. A lot of that's Christmas weight. I put on a fair bit of weight over Christmas, and to be honest, I've been slowly putting on weight over the last year, which most of my family will say is not a bad thing, because I got a little bit too skinny, and I know some of you guys noticed it as well. I got a little bit too maybe borderline underweight, and I've been putting on weight since we moved to Wales, and it got to the point where around Christmas time I was maybe a stone, maybe a little bit shy of a stone beyond my normal weight. So instead of being at sort of around the 8 stone mark, I'm closer to the 9 stone mark now, which still is within the healthy BMI range for my height. But where I thought I'd be going back to the gym in January, obviously I am not. So I am not dieting, so I'm not trying to shift this extra weight. I have been trying to be more careful, you know, not to eat more than what I'm used to and what I need, because it's a myth that you should eat for two, especially in the early stages. You should just eat a healthy, balanced diet like you normally would. But obviously I've not dropped the weight that I've gained, so I am heavier, long story short, than I used to be. But it's the bloat, it's just so bad. Oh, and it's painful, like it's painful and it's uncomfortable. Most of the time come morning it goes down, unless I eat a bit later in the day. And obviously, like I said, we're at the children's hospice, so I have definitely eaten a little bit more today than I usually would. But it was all very good food. But yeah, so there is my 10-week update. I've had my first midwife appointment, went through all the questions, and now I am just waiting for my dating scan. Morning, guys. It is the 13th of February. Still in my 10th week. I know I look like absolute poop. Just please accept this as like a blanket apology for this entire video. I know I've looked like absolute crap, but I'm picking up the camera for this particular video at random times to give you random updates as and when I have them. Today's not really an update as such, but me kind of using you as a little bit of an outlet. So earlier on in my pregnancy, I decided to stop wearing my Apple Watch at night because my Apple Watch is set to take my temperature through the night. And it was stressing me out a little bit because my temperatures were a bit up and down. Overall they were still high, but it was just stressing me out, so I decided to stop wearing it, and I made the mistake of putting it on a few nights over the last week, and I've noticed that my temperatures have really plummeted. They've really dropped, and it's making me incredibly anxious. I know that the Apple Watch definitely isn't a medical tool or any kind of diagnosis tool, and it may not even be fully accurate, but it's making me nervous. I do have the date for my dating scan. It's on the 24th, so it's a week on Monday, so I've got a week and a half to wait. But honestly guys, I'm terrified. Like, I'm so anxious, and it's stupid. Like, I could have avoided this if I'd just not worn my watch to bed, but given how this pregnancy kind of started and all of the stress and just feeling on high alert from the get-go, every little thing is making me anxious, and that is making me anxious. I think especially since, I mean, I say I don't have that many symptoms. If I really think about it, I've got quite a few really, but I think maybe because I'm not experiencing nausea, it almost feels as though I'm having a pretty easy ride, but that's not abnormal for me. I never had morning sickness with any of my babies. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I get a little bit of nausea. Like last night I felt quite sick, but I'm never actually sick, and it's not to the point where I feel sick every day. It's just random times now and again I'll just feel a little bit nauseous. Other symptoms to date, I'm still breathless. I know I mentioned around the 5-week mark I was breathless. I'm still breathless. My boobs are still hurting. I'm not sure when that's supposed to go away. I'm almost hoping it doesn't go away until after my scan, because I feel like if that kind of settled down now, that would make me like triple as anxious. I do still get tired, but I'm not quite as exhausted as I was early on. There are still days where it gets to sort of 9-10 o'clock and I fall to sleep. Like, I have to tell Josh, just keep an eye on the time for Avery's next lot of meds because I can't keep my eyes open anymore. But ultimately, it's been pretty smooth sailing as far as symptoms go. I feel huge. Obviously, I spoke to you guys last week about the bloating and the weight gain. I feel huge, which is silly because I'm only maybe about a pound or two heavier than I was sort of 6 weeks ago. But I think I feel huge. I feel sluggish. But I can't complain because I still have the energy and the kind of wellness to get up in the day and do the things I normally do. Avery going to school this week has been really nice. It's been nice to have that break and just that little bit of time to catch up on other things. But yeah, so really I kind of just wanted to vent a little bit. Not even vent, just kind of express my anxieties, because we're still at a point now where we can't really talk to anyone else about it. Like I said, we've still got a really close circle of people that know, but I feel like what I'm worried about is something I really shouldn't be worried about, but I'm worried about it nonetheless. Like, I know the logic. The logic is I shouldn't be wearing my watch. It's not an accurate like determination of what's going on with my body right now, but every little thing is making me anxious. So yeah, the next time I update you guys will probably be the day of my scan. So yeah, I'll catch up with you then.